It has been a lot of time since we are working on this language Python together, right? But have you ever wondered that why this Python language is getting so much popularity? Why developers, coders, and programmers have found this language an amazing language? The reason is very obvious. The reason is that Python supports three different programming approaches. It supports functional programming paradigm, procedural programming paradigm, in which we divide the complete big task into smaller subtasks following top-down approach, as well as Python supports this object-oriented programming paradigm, which is going to be the topic of discussion for this video and for the coming videos. We are going to discuss object-oriented programming paradigm again in a lot detailed manner. What is this object-oriented programming paradigm? Why is this so much popular? And why every learner wants to learn and should learn this object-oriented programming paradigm, no matter whatever language you are following. But if that language supports this object-oriented programming paradigm, then you must learn this particular approach of programming. Like a same program can be written in different ways following different approaches. But what is the best way to write a program? That particular program, what is the best way to write that particular program should be the main aim of any developer, any coder, or any programmer. Object-oriented programming relates a lot with our real life problems. Most of the problems in our real life, you can solve it using object-oriented programming approach. And again, these all things involve object and class. Anything and everything in object-oriented programming paradigm follows object and class. Whatever you will do, you will definitely come across object and class every time. You will get this word object and class every time. No matter what you do, what you implement, object-oriented programming is not complete without these two words, object and class, right? So now the matter of fact is that we must understand this object and class a lot in detail. We must understand the concept of object and class. Only then we'll be able to implement the coding in this object-oriented programming paradigm is based on reusability. This is very important, and again this reusability can be implemented using what? Using class and object. So far we have discussed the basic understanding of object-oriented programming approach, right? Now we are going to discuss one of the most important pillar of object-oriented programming, which is object, and later on we will come to the other pillar, which is class. So object, what is an object? Anything and everything around you can be considered as an example of object. If you're sitting with a laptop, then that particular laptop can be an example of an object. If you're using phone, then that mobile phone can be treated as an example of object. If you can see a lamp along with you, then that can be an example of object. A pen can be an example of object. So everything around you can be treated as an example of object, and every real world item. So here are few examples of object. Whatever you see, please ignore the spelling. I am not very much concerned here about the spelling, but the concept, right? So everything on your screen right now is an example of object. Kapil Dev, Ronaldo, Amitabh Bachchan, Rakesh Sharma, Tiger ka horse, all these, this Nitro 5, Y540 Legion. So all these are examples of object. And when we discuss object, we discuss primarily two things. One is this attribute, and the other one is this behavior. So object can be defined using these two terms, attributes and behavior. So I take the example of Kapil Dev. There would be some attribute, like there would be some data about Kapil Dev, that his maybe date of birth, maybe his height. Similarly, if I talk about Ronaldo, the same can be there for Ronaldo, his date of birth, his height. For Amitabh Bachchan, same. For Mr. Rakesh Sharma, same, right? I can have some data about my object, right? particular data. If I talk about tiger, cow, horse, rhino, I can have some data like legs. How many legs does a tiger have, a cow have, a horse or rhino? And then comes the other part, behavior, like the function. One thing, what does it do, what my object does. My object Kapil Dev, what it does, he's a cricket player, I would say. He plays cricket. Ronaldo, he plays football. Amitabh Bachchan, he's an actor, he acts. Mr. Rakesh Sharma. So all these, whatever the functionalities of object is there, that would be considered in behavior. And whatever the data we have about a particular object, that can be treated as an attribute. Further, this attribute in object oriented programming are also known as variables, and this behavior in object oriented programming are also known as methods and or functions. For the time being, consider methods and functions being same, and attributes are what? They are variables. So now we'll discuss about class. And I hope you all remember that in the very starting of the video, I have discussed one thing with you all, that the main aim of the object oriented programming is to reuse the code again and again. Write once and use it multiple times is the main approach, is the main motto of object oriented programming language. And this reusability of code can be covered using the concept of class. So what is this class, right? We have discussed what an object is. Now we'll discuss what class is, right? So consider class as a design, right? We create design once and use it again and again to create objects. Please listen it carefully, that we create design once and use that design to create object again and again, to create multiple objects. Similarly, you can define class using the word template. A template created once can be used to create multiple objects again and again. Similarly, like you must have seen, you must have used Word. So there you can see, when you create a new Word document, there comes several templates, and they have created for just one single times, and all of us can use it multiple times to create multiple documents. And this is exactly same as class. So class can also be defined as the blueprint of creating any object. I hope this is clear. I will explain it again using some examples, but for time being, consider class as a word design, as a word template, or maybe as a word blueprint, right? So we create design once and we use it multiple times. And why do we use it? We use it for creating multiple objects, right? So objects can be created via using design, and design is what? Design is my class, right? I have used all these examples to define object, and now I am using the same examples to define my class. And the reason is again very obvious, because these classes and objects are correlated to each other. But we will do this, we will define classes in a different manner this time. So consider here this person. I have written here a person. So I have written here person. I also have written here animal and laptop. Consider the first word, person. What a person is. That's an image, right? That's a design, and using that design, many people like Kapil Dev, Ronaldo, me, you, like everyone can be created. So we are basically the objects, and the design is of a person, right? Similarly, consider this animal now. The next example is of animal. So what is the design here? What is my class here? The class is animal, and using that design, using that blueprint, using that template, I have created many animal objects, many objects with similar characteristics. I would not say here same, I am using the term similar characteristics, right? So an animal, right? Tiger is derived from my animal class. Cow is an object of my animal class. Animal is what? Animal is my design. Animal is my blueprint. And using this animal, this blueprint, I have this tiger, cow, horse, and rhinos. Now comes the last example, and all of us have used this. This laptop is a design, and all these examples which I have written in the third point are the objects. We have created these objects using the blueprint of laptop. So far we have discussed what an object-oriented programming is, what is the main motto of object-oriented programming is, why that programming approach is so much popular. We have also discussed an object, we have also discussed what a class is, and we have just seen some examples of it, and we have discussed class and object separately. So now we discuss them together, like class and object together. But before that, I want to ask you one question. What do we create first, design or the item? So the answer is very obvious that we create the design first, and using that design we derive n number of items. So here design is my class and item is my object. So we'll first create the design, we'll first create the class, and then we will derive item from it. We will create objects from the class. I have created my class. So the scenario is, since this object oriented programming deals a lot with the real world problems, we will take some real world examples now. So the scenario is, the scene is that I have a company and the name of the company is Deloitte. So I need to make an object which can take the first name, the last name of the employee, right? The department of the employee, the salary of the employee, date of joining of the employee, and then it has to do some behavior, some functionality as well. My class has to do some functionality as well, some functions as well, and the function is that I need to get the salary in US dollar, and I also need to fetch the details like what is the total years of experience in that particular company, Deloitte, of that employee. So don't you think that if I have salary, if I already have the salary, I can convert that in US dollar, if provided I also have the rate? Definitely we can do that. We just have to multiply salary into the rate. What is the current rate of 1 US dollar? This is my design, this is my template, blueprint, call it anything. In object oriented programming we call it class. So this is my class, this is the scenario, and now we will derive objects from it, we will create objects from it. So now look at this. So I have created three objects, employee 1, employee 2, employee 3. And similarly, we are going to describe all this using the design which we have created just before this for Deloitte. So Deloitte is my company, and these are the data of three employees. So I have given the first name, the same thing. This first name was there in the design. First name is Nimish, last name is Garg, department is IT, salary 67,000. I think I have added extra zero here. Okay, 67,000, and date of joining is 2nd July 2015. Same structure is getting followed here. First name, last name, department, salary, date of joining. So everything, the structure is exactly same, only the data is changing. This data is changing here, this data is changing here, and this data is changing here. Otherwise the design, the template is exactly same. So this first block of each employees are the attributes. What are they? These are the attributes, these are the variables, these are the data of my employee 1. Then this is what? This is the behavior of this, what it is doing. It is doing something. This particular block is doing something. What it is doing, it is converting the salary which I have given, which I have provided in INR. This is converting into US dollar, right? And then I have another behavior, which is what it is doing. It is giving me the total years in Deloitte, total years of that particular employee in Deloitte, today minus date of joining. I'll get it. So these two blocks are basically doing something. They are not just storing data, but they are also doing something. And what are these? They are just storing the data. So if what we will call this, we will call this attributes, we'll call this attributes of the object. And what we will call this, we will call them behavior or methods of the class, methods of the class which we have created, my Deloitte class. So far we have been using this methods. You might have confused now, what is this methods and functions? They're similar. The only difference is that when we discuss object oriented programming, we call functions as methods. This is the only difference. Don't get confused. And that's it for this video. We'll meet in the next video, in which we will implement this data, this class, this object, everything using codes.